Hello, everyone, and welcome to my LinkedIn Live. Today, we're going to be talking about how to turn bold ideas into bankable assets. And I'm so excited to invite Patty Farmer to join me. Hi, Patty, how are you?
Hi, Joyce. I'm great. I'm so excited to be here. This is one of my favorite topics.
Well, it's your gift. I call you the monetization magician. You are so skilled at this, Patty. And for everyone joining us, I conduct these LinkedIn Lives to be of service to everyone and to share my favorite people in my network and their areas of expertise. And I met Patty about 3 years ago when she was speaking for the Dames. The Dames is a business incubator community for 6, 7, and 8-figure women business leaders. And Patty, you were speaking at the VIP day, which was before the big event. And that was an exclusive VIP experience. And you spoke for, I believe, around 3 hours, and it was not enough for me. I could have listened to you for days. The amount of wisdom that you shared with us with such generosity was just overwhelming. I just have to thank you for all you do.
Oh, thank you so much. That just made my day. It's what I really love. Speaking is obviously something I do, but when you really get to pour into people at the level where you get to have a little bit more time so you can really do it, that really is what sort of makes it all worthwhile for me.
And I really feel that as an audience member attending your sessions. And I got to hear you again at the Dames, which I was so happy about. You conducted that workshop that actually really motivated me to, in the workshop, I decided I want to contribute for Forbes. And now I'm a contributor for Forbes. And I have you to thank for really expanding my mindset and thinking about how I could grow and develop. So just to backtrack a little bit, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joyce Martyr. I've been a licensed psychotherapist for over 25 years. I'm a keynote speaker and corporate trainer known as America's Workplace Therapist. So I speak across industry, across the globe about mental health in the workplace, financial mindset, and holistic success. And I'm the author of The Financial Mindset Fix, a mental fitness program for an abundant life. And Patty, I think you and I have so much in common in terms of really appreciating the connection between self-worth and net worth and wanting to empower others, especially women, to embrace our value and to think bigger and to welcome that financial abundance. So tell me how you got into this work.
Well, a lot of people may not know this, but I have 6 daughters and I come from a family of 5 girls. So I love women. I love everything about it. And one of the things I had noticed early on in my career is if daddy couldn't make it to Johnny's soccer game, everybody just thought, oh, daddy has to work. That's just how it is. But if mommy couldn't make it to Johnny's soccer game, all of a sudden she felt guilty and she thought, oh, maybe I should go get a job and all these things. And I just felt like, we contribute to the world, right? We contribute to the world and we have just as much right to have a dream and have a business. And right then and there, I just said, no, I don't want that for my daughters. And I want them to know that if they have a dream and this is something that they want to do and serve, then they should. And that just kind of expanded into it. And now my company only works with women, women-owned, women-led. That is who I love to serve. And it makes me so happy.
I'm so glad. And I know you're such a powerhouse in the Dames and you're you're the president of the Dallas chapter, correct?
Yes, I am. And I really love that because I think, how they say, if you don't find exactly what you're looking for, create it. And that became an opportunity for me to create the room. I love the Dames. I've been at Dames for 3 years. We've had the Dallas chapter for 9 months now. But being able to create the room is just something that is so exciting. And I just love having the autonomy to be able to do that.
Fabulous. And thank you for your leadership. So for everyone attending, I want to provide a formal introduction of Patty. Patty Farmer is an award-winning marketing and media strategist. fractional CMO, international speaker, podcast host, magazine publisher, and seven-figure event producer based in Dallas, Texas. With her proven strategies, she helps entrepreneurs attract, engage, and convert their target buyers with confidence and clarity. Whether on stage, behind the mic, or coaching one-on-one, Patty's energy and insights inspire action and drive success. She specializes in working with service-based women entrepreneurs, small business owners, coaches, speakers, and content creators to define their target audience, communicate their values, and package their expertise into profitable products and services. Patty's mission is to help her clients design the lifestyle that they desire and help them build a business that supports it, not the other way around, ensuring that everything they do brings them joy and feeds their soul while maximizing results, relationships, and revenue. So everyone say hello to Patty, and we'd love to see your comments in the chat. Again, Patty, I just am blown away by you. I think, hearing your bio, you have this magazine. How many subscribers do you have to your magazine?
We just hit 300,000 subscribers, which was really exciting for me.
It's amazing. And thank you so much for featuring me in it. That was really fun. And your seven-figure events. This is one of my favorite things about you. Can you tell us briefly about those?
Sure. And actually, what's really interesting from a timeline is I leave on Friday to go to this year. So we've been doing it for 15 years. I'm really excited about it. I love it. This year, we have 125 women attending, and only 4 of them are from the United States. All the other women are from Europe, which is really exciting because I speak internationally there a lot. And more of them are coming over, and I just really love that. But it is an event where they actually do while they're here. So they leave with a leather-bound implementation plan so that they can implement, execute, not just get ideas. Because I'm all about, here's your ideas, but how do you make them bankable? And I think that is the most important thing, and it's what I love to do best.
And it's so important. I mean, that is so impressive that you have 150 attendees, mostly from Europe, and you're earning a seven-figure income on these events, which is wild to me. And I remember one of my favorite stories was that you had some challenges getting a venue for your event, so you ended up buying the home.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, there's these different things that happen, and you have to be able to just go with it. Because I'm going to tell you, this is our 15th year, but the very first year, I didn't know what I know now. And I will never forget when I checked out of that very first hotel and they handed me a bill for $81,000. And I was like, oh my goodness. Right. And so I was like, oh, and the lady was so gracious. She's like, I know you did a couple things I think you could have done better. Let me walk you through it line by line. And I really learned, and that never happened again.
Amazing. And I loved when you bought your own venue. That is just, it is so, you are such a badass, Patty. You are so empowered, and you support so many others, and we are all so grateful. So getting back to the questions, I want to ask you, you're known for helping people monetize their brilliance. How does this process start?
Well, like in my intro, when we talked about lifestyle, right? I feel like every single thing always starts with lifestyle, because I know this may be a surprise, but not everybody wants to be a millionaire or have a jet or take 10 vacations a year. Really, sometimes they just don't want to work weekends and they want to be there for their children in the afternoon or whatever. So for me, it always starts with, let's talk about lifestyle. What is the lifestyle you want to live? And that's why I will then help them to build a business that supports that. Because the criteria for me is, does this bring me joy and does this feed my soul? So the monetizing really comes in, because I bet people say, well, Patty, is it about the money? I'm like, no, it's not about the money. It's about, if you generate revenue when you are doing revenue generating things, that frees you up. So everything else can be the things that fills you with joy and feed your soul. So it starts with clarity, right? Knowing who you serve, the problem you solve, and what sets you apart. What's your value differentiator? But then I believe, Joyce, that most people, they undervalue what comes easily to them, right? And you
Yes.
have to be able to really know that what comes easiest to you, that there are people out there that are praying for that, literally. So you really need to think about it. So when I work with people and we go through that, yes, I help them to name and package their brilliance, but I really look for the monetize moment. What it's sometimes it's hidden in a story or a framework or a client result that they've just brushed off because they just didn't realize how transformational that really was. And then we built from there.
Amazing. And I love how you focus on their life and what brings them joy and having their business support that. It reminds me of early on in my profession, I met with a career counselor, and it was at a time where I was thinking about starting a large group practice, but I was also thinking about starting a family. And she said, Joyce, you need to plan your career in the context of your life and not the other way around. And so, to your point about what brings you joy, my passion was about removing the shame and stigma around mental health and promoting access to care. So, I started this practice that I called Urban Balance so that I could have work-life balance and earn income from other therapists that were seeing clients on the evening and the weekends when I was with my kids. So, I love that you're helping women do the same. You talk a lot about idea to income. How do you evaluate if an idea is actually worth pursuing?
That's a great question. So I feel like the things that we need to be thinking about, what is the market desire plus aligned delivery method equals the monetizable idea. So you need to ask yourself, because sometimes we just love our stuff, right? We love our stuff. So I always say, people say, well, do you have shiny object syndrome? I have brilliant idea syndrome. And I think that's really what it is. So which one should we pursue? So we need to ask ourselves, who needs this now, right? And can we validate it with conversation, not just content? Because I think that is really important, because really an idea isn't real until it's been tested with buyers, not just your peers or your audience, but really with buyers. And that's why I talk about target buyers all the time. So just in case somebody in the audience doesn't know the difference between a target market and a target buyer, which I'll talk about a lot, so I want you to be clear. Your target market is somebody who has a problem of which you have a solution. But a target buyer is somebody who has a problem that you have the solution to, but they're actively looking for the solution. So it's a total different ball of wax, right? So they're actively looking. So you need to know, has it been tested with buyers, not just your peers or your audience? So you really need to get really clear on that. And that's when you know, should you be pursuing it now? Or maybe should you spend 6 months growing a network that does need that, having some conversations and knowing, what, this is really a great idea, but it's not a great idea right now. I need to put a little bit more time into it so that then it is the right idea.
And this is something that you help your coaching clients and the people that you mentor with, correct? You're that sounding board that helps them think through the target market and the target buyer.
Well, actually, I do more than that, really. I do that and help them differentiate that. But I'm going to say about 80% of my clients, they're really busy in their business. And once we help them to identify and define who that target buyer is, then they're overwhelmed. And so I used to just teach that. But now I realize that the bigger thing that I could do is to go find them for them. So once they hire me, we identify that, and then I go find them for them and stuff, so that whatever it is that they need in the beginning, maybe they need 100 or maybe they need 500 to really get that off the ground. We will actually do that because we have already defined that for them. Otherwise, they just get stuck.
Yes. And Patty, you and I are both professional speakers, and I'm currently serving on the board of the National Speakers Association. And I aim to support new speakers and incoming speakers who have a great idea and they're looking how to monetize it. So do you have any comments about professional speaking and how to frame your idea or your signature talk into something that is money earning?
Now, I have to tell you, I just love that you said that, because literally this is just another power partner move for us right now that you probably didn't even realize. So I say that I work with speakers all the time, but I do not work with them in the beginning or to help them with their speech. What I found out once I became a speaker, I literally joined. I'm not kidding. I thought every speaker made $1 million because they all seemed like they did. They even acted like they did, right? And when I found out that they didn't, I was like, really? Because I'm going to tell you, Joyce, I became a 6-figure speaker in the first 2 weeks I was a speaker because I'm in marketing and I knew how to position first. So I thought everybody did. So what I'm going to say is, now, not to say that if you're a speaker and you're not really monetizing doesn't mean you don't have value. Don't get me wrong. That I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if you are a speaker and you want to monetize, I'm going to tell you that's where I see the most underutilized group, which is why literally like 85% of my clients are speakers or want to be speakers, because being able to monetize your signature talk is really important. And I think the biggest thing is they need to be able to tie it to a distribution channel. Like, how are you leveraging that talk and everything else you do from a visibility point of view so that you become an authority? A lot of times people are like, oh, I'm an expert. Well, I'm going to say everybody should be an expert at what they do. Why are you doing it if you're not? But it doesn't mean that you're the authority on it. And if you build your signature talk and leverage it with a distribution channel, then you become the authority and you will be able to monetize it.
Amazing. So you mentioned visibility. What role does visibility play in monetization?
Oh, such a big role. Because here's the thing. One, you can't monetize what no one sees or understands, right? You just can't do it. And visibility isn't about being everywhere. That's what a lot of people think, right? It's really the illusion of being everywhere. People say to me all the time, oh my gosh, Patty, you're everywhere. And I'm not really everywhere. You need to be unforgettable to the right people. So again, we talked briefly, it's about being in the right rooms. It's also about being on the right platforms. So when people say to me, Patty, what platform should I be on? The simple answer is you should be on the platforms where your ideal audience are, right? Not the ones that are fun for you. Oh, I love this or I love that. Is that where your ideal buyers are? Because those are the platforms that you really need to be on. And you need to have strategic content that builds resonance, not just reach. And resonance is what creates readiness to buy. So you have to be in the right rooms, doing the right things, leveraging everything you do. That's how you're visible and that's how you monetize it.
And your magazine, if I'm correct, is called Marketing, Media, and Money. Is that right?
Yep.
And so you're an expert really in all three of those and how they interplay within each other. And yes, for example, for myself, LinkedIn is where my buyers are. The CEOs, the CHROs, the executive directors that hire speakers and corporate trainers. And so that platform has been important to me. I also spend a lot of my time doing podcasts, media interviews, and also contributing to Forbes and Psychology Today, because as you said, that strengthens our authority and our brand and our recognition as an expert in the field. So absolutely. I love that you encourage people to do that. What is your approach to helping clients sell without feeling salesy?
Well, I think first of all, it starts with the belief that sales is service, because sales is service. And a lot of times people don't really believe it. So they have to buy into that first. And that's a mindset shift, right? Yes. And so I really teach my clients how to sell through stories, results, not pressure, right? Like that isn't what does it. And again, it all comes back to what is our money mindset, which I know is something that you work on. And so I always like to say, if you create next step offers that feel like an invitation, not a pitch, because I'm going to tell you, Joyce, I believe that if you spend time, teaching or talking about something, or they hear you speak, it's actually a disservice to them, really, that they took that time and then you don't tell them what the next step would be. They're like, oh yeah, that's great. What do I do now? So that's not sales. That's an invitation to take the next step. It's all in how you do it. So if you're pitching and you're just thinking about sales and being salesy, you're right. It comes across that way. But if really your mindset is an abundance mindset, you're like, this is where I want to serve, and sales is service, it's just an invitation to the next step, which I think is so important.
Well, and I remember from attending the VIP day that you facilitated for the Dames that you were so generous. You gave us all of these worksheets, all this tremendous amount of information about various marketing strategies and branding strategies and monetization strategies that have worked for you. You also were very vulnerable and authentic and relatable. You weren't like intimidating, even though you've accomplished so much. And you also shared digital resources for us to get your magazine, to stay in touch with you, to, like you said, to continue the relationship. And you left us wanting more. In fact, you came back the next year because so many of us wanted to hear you again. So I think you model that in how you work. So, what's one bold monetization move someone could make this week?
Oh, I love that. So one would be, I would say, revisit the body of work that you do and extract a high value insight, a framework or a perspective, right? And then shape it into a paid offer or an exclusive experience, right? So like one of my favorites is a 90-minute premium intensive or a roundtable for your top buyers, right? Fast, focused, high conversion and high conversation, because monetization doesn't always mean building something new. Sometimes it's about seeing old ideas with fresh eyes, right? And putting a strategic wrapper around it. So really thinking about it, because a lot of times we look at our stuff all the time and we just see the same thing, right?
Yeah.
But really looking at it through a new lens and then really just picking out what's the one high value thing. That is, I think, the name of the game. And you can do this over and over and over again, week after week after week.
Amazing. And I love how simple and efficient that example is of an hour and a half exclusive meeting or, workshop or event. That is so manageable and something we can all do this week. I think about too, you are a great example about on how to repurpose content. So you have a podcast, you have a magazine, you have your speaking engagements, your retreats, and your coaching, and they all kind of cross-pollinate. And
I have a secret for that. And I have a secret for that.
Well, tell us that secret, please.
So I'm getting ready to roll out my new Substack. I'm super excited. But what I do is I always first start with, what's the value first? What are those things that I want them to walk away with first? I start there. Then I'll write an article. And that article usually ends up in my magazine. It's going to start being on my Substack, which is sort of going to be like a solo version of the magazine, just me. Once I do that, I take that and then I have my team create a PowerPoint for that. Once I create the PowerPoint for that, then after that, it's like, okay, what are all of to drive to that? What are all of the social media posts that I need to do for that? And then after that, it's like, what are all the so-called mic drop moments? What are the value things that I did? Okay, what am I going to do with those that are going to lead really to them? So really every one thing. And then I look at that and I say, oh, well, that was really good. What podcast topics can I do out of that? And who do I need to invite in that can expound on that and add to that conversation? And then what's the strategy that I would give someone that I need to do a solo episode? So literally I do one thing and it becomes a multitude of things that I can use over and over again. And that's how you create authority, because if somebody hears you talk about something one time, it's like, oh, that was great content. But when they hear it in a bunch of different ways, they're like, oh my gosh, she must be an authority on that because I'm hearing her talk about it everywhere.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it sounds like you have sort of a standard operating procedure, a system that you start with the article and you go from there. And so it's not willy-nilly, which is sometimes how I feel with trying to repurpose some of my content. So I love that you have an actual strategy, that your team supports you in that. And what I really admire, one of the many things that I admire about you, is your creativity and joy and the energy that you have for creating all of these resources for the audiences that you serve. You seem to really have fun doing what you do. Is that correct?
Yeah, I love it.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, you often talk about marketing that feeds your soul rather than drains your spirit. What are some soul aligned, joy fueled marketing ideas that we can use in practice?
Sure. So first of all, I think that joy-filled marketing isn't about doing more, because that's what people think, right? It's really about creating a way that feels nourishing to you, right? And magnetic to your audience, right?
Yeah.
And when your marketing flows from your values, right, it stops being another task. It stops being something on your to-do list, and it starts becoming like a natural expression of your leadership. I think that is important. And it's about building a marketing ecosystem that honors your energy, not just trends, right? Because I know that's why everyone likes to jump from one thing to another, but honors your energy. So think about one signature platform that can feed multiple visibility streams. And then you need to anchor your message to your values and your bigger vision. I think that's really when it will nourish you and really serve your audience too.
Amazing. And I love that you talk about sort of soul aligned work and being of service. And in my years, 25 plus years as a psychotherapist, I've really found that my favorite thing in working with clients is mirroring back all their unique gifts and strengths and empowering them to align those gifts with a need in the world to the greatest extent possible and to welcome that flow of abundance. And I loved your point about sales, when we come from a place of generosity and being of service and being our authentic selves, sharing our unique voice, that's going to resonate with the best clients that can benefit from our work that we offer. And so I love that you really emphasize that, because I think that's so important. And sometimes we can compare ourselves to others and think that we have to behave in a certain way that really isn't authentic, or maybe we get scarcity mindset and we start selling in a way that feels off-putting and inauthentic and not in alignment. And in my experience, when that happens, the deals don't happen, right?
I agree with that. And I think one of the things that's really important, this is the lens that I look through for everything. I mean, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, should I be a part of that? Should I do that? How do I make the decisions? What should I join? What should I do? And here's where I feel like is where it all begins. So what I ask myself first is, what is the contribution that I can make? I never join anything if I'm not clear where I can contribute, because that's what fills my soul, right? And so it's always like, what can I contribute? So the one thing, if nobody hears anything else I say, if you can shift your mindset to lead with contribution, compensation will follow, but it always starts with leading with contribution. And then you'll always be doing things you love that feed your soul, and you'll be able to monetize them too.
Patty, I love that you started this LinkedIn Live sharing with us that you have 5 sisters and 6 daughters. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that made me laugh, because my husband no longer then can complain about having 4 sisters and 3 daughters. So I'm glad that you shared that with us. But I really see, and with your example of, a mother not being allowed to miss a baseball game for their kid, but a father sort of getting, excused for that. Yeah, getting the pass. You really have a strong feminist approach to your leadership and the work that you do. And it's so empowering for women, for your daughters, for people like myself that are in your communities and the people that you coach. And you just don't seem to let anything get in your way. It doesn't seem like you struggle with imposter syndrome or, setting small ceilings. How have you done that inner work to become, the mega marketing machine that you are?
I think, now, first of all, let's get real. Everybody has imposter syndrome sometimes for certain things. It doesn't mean you have it for everything, but I always say, whenever you get that kind of prompting to do something new and bigger or whatever, I think the first thing that kind of sometimes can come in is that imposter syndrome. Like, is this something I'm called to do? Is this something? So I do feel like if you are feeling that, everybody gets that. So
I agree.
I think that could be important. But one of the things that I think is really important is when you are doing work that feeds your soul, when you are doing work that matters, because I know a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm out there creating content, I'm doing all this information and I'm creating this and I'm doing this. First of all, here's what I want to say. We're not in the information business. Google's in the information business. We're in the transformation business. So get really clear what business you are in, because you're not. People, if they just wanted information, they'd listen to a podcast, they'd buy a book, they'd go to Google and all the other AI ways that they could do things right now. But why should they hire you? And more important, why should you be serving at that level? So tie it and anchor it to how you want to serve, to what you believe in. What are the things that you value that are so important to you? And when you do that, really honestly, it doesn't even seem like work. And it's so much easier to be successful at it, because what you're calling success and how you define that is not always about money. Like, I love that I am at a place in my business, and I have been for a long time, even when I wasn't making the money that I am now. Get to the place where really honestly, you are motivated by making a difference instead of making a dollar. The dollars will come, but really, if you're going to get up every day and feel good and the energy is going to be there and you're going to serve, we do that because we want to make a difference. There's a lot of people out there doing it for money. Do it because you want the transformation, not just for you, but for your clients and their clients as well.
Wow, Patty. I mean, just a wealth of information in what you just shared. And I loved that you said we're not in the business of information. We're in the business of transformation.
Yep.
That was a mic drop. And especially with the rise of AI, expertise can be found, at our fingertips on the keyboard. And so you're absolutely right that being of service and, creating sustainable change in others is going to provide so much of that sense of meaning and purpose in life. And I know as a psychotherapist that a sense of purpose is what fosters, according to research, the most resilience and joy in life. And so can you share with us about your philanthropy that you do and your cute way of sort of transforming how many people ask you if they can pick your brain and have a short meeting with you and tap into all your brilliance, and you turn that into philanthropy. Can you share with us what you did?
So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but really the thing that we need to remember is everything's a teaching moment, right? Like, we can't help ourselves. Everything is a teaching moment. So when somebody says to me, Patty, can I take you to lunch, or can we go have coffee or whatever? And can I pick your brain? My answer is no, but you can rent it, right? So that's my answer is no.
Good boundary.
Good boundaries, right? And they kind of look at me, and I always turn it around though. And I always say, listen, this is what this looks like. You can ask me anything you want for 5 minutes, but if I don't answer your question in 5 minutes, then we go on the clock. Fair enough. And then one of two things will really happen. Either they'll be like, they'll make sure they ask you the question in 5 minutes and you just got 55 minutes of your life back. Or they realize that and they're like, oh, and it kind of teaches them, because really, honestly, sometimes it's so easy for people to just ask you questions. I got to tell you, Joyce, my kids used to say this to me sometimes, and I finally figured it out. It took me a little while. It was so much easier to just text them, because they know everything about technology. How do I get to do this? And sometimes they would just say, Mom, Google it. Mom, Google it, right? And so I think that's kind of funny. And so one of the things that I just realized, and I have to tell you, I have to give a shout out to Amanda Kaufman, because she's the one that actually taught me this, but really figure out whatever your favorite drink is, And so one of the things that I do is, that drink, if we were going to go have coffee, would be $7.81. Right? $7.81. So I have a beautiful picture of it, and this is what it is. So if somebody wants to jump on the phone with me, whatever, then they take that $7.81 and it goes to my philanthropy so that I can actually give to them. And actually then I feel good, because really it's not going to make or break me $7.81, right? But it does help others. And so I think it is really important to try to figure out what are some of the ways that you can give back to others. I mean, I even do it at my events, whatever different things are, when it's school time and stuff, if they'll bring school supplies, instead of paying for my events, for admission to an event. I'm like, good, because then we can give those school supplies, because we all know when kids go to school, getting school clothes is one thing, and then they give you that big long list of the school supplies they need, right?
Right. Oh, Patty, I just love how creative you are and generous, and those are great suggestions for us. So circling back to visibility, you work with a lot of really high performing women who are already successful. What kind of unlocks their visibility at the next level and their revenue?
I would say it is clarity of positioning and permission to own the edge. Like, we all have our own edge, right? So
Yeah.
really understanding positioning and permission, for yourself. Most of my clients, they don't lack expertise. They're lacking a marketing ecosystem that reflects their true genius, but speaks to the buyers at the level they want to serve. What I think is really important. So you really need to align your message, your offer, and the method so that you stop sounding like everyone else and really start, magnetizing that aligned, ready to buy client. Because I have to tell you, I did it too. It was one of the things that I always like to tell everybody when I first got into business. My heart, if you haven't been able to see that, I'm very heart-centered. I just wanted to help startups, and I just really wanted to help them. But it took me a little while to realize that that was really great, but they didn't have everything in place yet to implement what I could do. And I had to understand that they really weren't my clients. My clients were more established, whatever, but it also allowed me to serve them. So then they became more of service, not my clients. So really understanding sometimes who exactly is your client and who are you just passionate about serving. They don't have to be the same, but you just need to know where you should be spending your time when in order to help them.
Amazing. I love that. And perhaps it's a balance of
Everything is a balance.
your clients that generate income and then your clients that are filling your heart and soul.
Exactly.
And yeah, so I love all of that, Patty, and you've shared so much. And thank you, Lindsay, for your comments in the chat. Love to see those. And now is a time where I would like to invite you all as attendees to ask any questions that you might have. So what do you want to ask Patty? Do you want to pick her brain, and what do you want to learn from her? And while we do that and wait for your responses, I have had a few questions come in through the private chat that I'm going to go ahead and ask you, Patty, while we wait for others. So let me see here. So where do most people get stuck when trying to turn an idea into an income stream?
Oh, that's a great question. So they're either trying to monetize it too soon before they have clarity or proof of concept, or I see this a lot, they overcomplicate it. They think they need to add a funnel, tech, features, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just launching the simplest version, right? You can send people to a Google Drive. It doesn't have to have a big fancy everything, because really you're looking to see, do your audience really want that, right?
Yeah.
It's much easier to tweak it there. And I think, and I know that you speak to this too, but perfectionism really masks fear, I think. I help my clients launch before they're fully ready, because that's where the real data lives, because data plus behavior is really making the best marketing decisions, because we need both. And we live in a world now where everybody's just fascinated by data, but we also want to know behaviors.
Wonderful. Such great points. And I've noticed the same thing in my therapy practice and in my coaching practice, that some people really struggle with that perfectionism, and they work so hard at building out their business plan instead of sort of dialing back the perfectionism and just recognizing when an idea is good enough and having the courage to put it out there.
I always like to say, sell it first and then create it, because otherwise you're going to have to make changes anyway. And so, and the other thing I'm going to say is a mistake. I don't always sometimes knowing what not to do is just as important as knowing what to do. Correct. So one of the things I'm going to say is we tend to want to talk to our friends. We want to talk to some of our peers, but they're not our ideal audience. So when you listen to them, that's not who you should be listening to. right? Because they're going to tell you, oh my gosh, that's so fabulous. I love that. And then you're out there, and then when you don't sell it and you spend all this time, you're like, why didn't that work? Well, because they weren't your target buyer. So if anything, put together for free, even if you have to, and say, oh, I'm going to do this little round table, and then find out who and what and how much they're willing to spend and what's the value of that to your ideal buyer. It will save you so much time on the other end than
Yes,
having to redo funnels and tech and all that kind of stuff.
absolutely. Such a great suggestion and way for us to sort of market test what we're creating. And I recently did that too, where I had an idea for a new keynote and I put it out in my newsletter as my new keynote. And I hadn't written it yet. And I got 2 bookings right away for it. And now I created it and I love it. And I'm excited to have new content. So yeah, sometimes we have to sell it.
Now, I would like to add to that, because this topic right here, why we are here today, when you reached out to me and said, Patty, you talk about, monetizing ideas. Would you be willing to come on the show? And I said, sure. You said, what's the name of the topic? The topic we have right now, turning your bold ideas into bankable assets. This is the first time that I've spoke about this now, but let me tell you, I already have the PowerPoint. I already have the descriptions. I already have all of the things to turn this into a signature talk. That if you hadn't asked me that, I'd have probably got to it eventually, but here we are.
Amazing. Amazing. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So Lindsay posted a question in the chat. She said, how do you know how to price offers?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So
important.
I always like to say, price your offers based on value, right? People tend to really look at them and they look at their offers, because I'm going to tell you, if I had $1 for every time somebody came to me and said, Patty, I want to hire you, I want to have a $10,000 offer. I don't have a $10,000 offer. I want to have a $10,000 offer. I'm like, what do you get? What are you going to do for $10,000? I don't know. I'm like, well, how do you know it's worth $10,000 then? Right. So it really isn't about coming up with a number first. It's really about what is the value first that can create transformation for them. That's the first question you should ask yourself. You probably have lots of value, but what is the value? Because you need to think about, what are people paying for? What are they willing to pay for? And then you need to say, in that aspect, it's not about, adding a whole bunch of bonuses, although people have bought things just because of a bonus. I have done that myself, but really thinking about, what is the value that I have that my target audience is looking for and willing to pay for? That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And this is something, as I'm continuing to develop my work as a speaker, that I put a lot of thought into, because of course we all want to raise our prices over time. And with that comes demonstrating value. So sharing the testimonials and the feedback. But even when I'm putting together proposals now, I'm giving sort of a 3-tiered option. There's a high price, a medium price, and a low price.
There's psychology in that. Oh man, that is marketing psychology. Here is the psychology of that. And I love that you brought this up, because this gets me excited. So whenever you do go to someone, you always see here's kind of and they name it a whole bunch of things, the economy, the basic,
yes,
whatever it is. And then over on the other side is the elite, the premium, whatever. And then they always have the one in the middle that stands out a little bit more, our most popular, whatever. That's the one they're really trying to sell. Right. Yes. That is their bread and butter, so to speak. What the psychology of that is that the basic or economy one is if it really is money. Like when people say, give you all the reasons why. And, there's an expression called buyers are liars. And it's not that they're liars. They just don't want to tell you it's money if it really is money. Right. And so you have to know that one is really for somebody who really doesn't have the money. You should put that at a value that allows them to grow. Not just oh, you can't afford my thing. How are you rising them up so that they then continue the journey with you, right? Then you have your most popular, right? Which is really what your audience is. And then the premium are the people that love the extra things. Like I have to tell you, I'm one of those things. I never even look at the popular. I automatically go to, what's the premium one? I know I want the premium one. What does that have? You will have people that are just that buyer. That is me. What is the extra thing? Does it have more time with them? What are those things? If I don't feel like that does, I'll back down. But I always start there. And you will have buyers that are like that, Who are your buyers? If you know who your buyers are, you're able to value ladder. That's what that's called. And then you move them up the ladder so that you're always being of service to them, but still getting the pricing that you should have for what you're giving them.
Amazing. Amazing. And I've discovered that there are things that I can offer that are very easy for me to bring, to offer some of my books to the VIPs. That's a win for me, for my publisher, and it's a win for them. Or to do a pre or post event survey that really shows the value of what I've helped the organization achieve. And it's not super time consuming for me.
And it doesn't always have to be something that costs money either.
Correct. Or it could be an hour of coaching, like you mentioned, more time with the person. So Lindsay is saying, thank you, Patty. So true. And having the right language so they understand the value. Absolutely. Is there anything you want to share about language?
So languaging is really, really very, very important that you are speaking your language. So if you've done the work, like I said earlier, what is it that your target buyer is looking for? And really making sure you don't use jargon, because I think that is something that we tend to do. Like, does somebody really understand what it is that you are actually saying? And there are so many sites out there right now. Like if you go to Google and somebody asks a question, when you go down further, it says people are also asking, and then they have those other questions. You should be looking at those other questions, because those other questions are other ways that people are asking the question. I think one of the biggest things that people aren't using right now is that most people aren't really as much asking questions and typing to Google as much as they are using voice activated devices. Are you optimizing those things for that? Because if you think about it, do you type the same thing as when you're just talking to your voice activated and saying, hey, blah, blah, blah? That's the language that people are using. So making sure, I used to own a mortgage company as well as a marketing company. And I had somebody work for me one time, and she said, I am a mortgage architect. That's what I want to call myself. And I said, that's really great. But when somebody's buying a house, they're looking for a loan officer, not a mortgage architect. So do you want clients, or do you just like having a great title? So clever is good, clear is better.
And it's important for search optimization too.
Absolutely.
How people are going to find you and your website. What are the questions that they're putting into Google? Or now I'm getting discovered as a speaker often through chat.
Well, that is really GEO. So you have SEO, AEO, and GEO, right? So GEO is generative engine optimization, right? And then AEO is answer engine optimization, which is, are you answering questions? So for example, earlier when we were talking about that and we were talking about becoming an authority, you need to make sure that all those different ways you're saying the same thing, that you're saying them in different ways that people are asking. So you're covering all your bases.
Amazing. Great advice, Patty. So we have another question. What's the biggest mindset shift people need to make to monetize effectively?
Oh, I would say that your knowledge is valuable, right? And people want to pay you for transformation, not information. So like what I said earlier, stop underpricing what you're amazing at just because it feels easy. Remember, just because it's easy for you doesn't mean it's easy for somebody else. And your story is part of your strategy. People buy the journey, not just the deliverables. So your story is what makes you different than everybody else, right? Is really about your story. So being authentic and being vulnerable to knowing a time and a place for that doesn't mean throwing up all over Facebook, right? But knowing where to position that story is really, really important. And it is the shift that people need to make.
Absolutely. And I found that having accountability partners or feedback from others is really important. For example, when I had the opportunity to keynote for the Dames, that was so much fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, that audience is my jam, speaking to women entrepreneurs, and as it is yours, I'm sure. And it was interesting afterwards, masterminding with other members and hearing from them that their impression was that I was a much higher paid speaker than what I was actively charging.
I think that happens a lot. I think that happens a lot. You want me to give you a tip for languaging that will really, this is kind of a ninja tip for them. So here's
Yeah.
what I'm going to say. And it's a ninja tip and an AI tip. So it's both. It helps you with both. So if you're on LinkedIn, as you should be, if you're on LinkedIn, go look at all of the recommendations that anybody has ever given you. It'll also work with your podcast reviews. And what you should do is take all of them, put them into ChatGPT with this one prompt. What is the pattern of the phrases that people are saying? So if you look at all your recommendations, your testimonials, the reviews on your podcast, and you run it, and all of a sudden you will find these words that keep coming up over and over and over again. Those are the words you should be using in your messaging. I have to tell you, until I did that, I never would have I never would have considered myself a visionary. Like that would have never been something I would have ever said. Oh, I'm a visionary. Like I still barely can step into it myself. But it came up so many times that how people describe me is that, oh my gosh, Patty, you're such a visionary. And when you see it, again, you want to use the words that your audience wants to hear. It's such an easy exercise to do. It will blow you away when you see how many times people have used the same word. And it's such an easy exercise to do.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. You mentioned AI a couple different times. How does AI play a role in the way that you and your clients monetize ideas?
First of all, AI is my collaborator. It's not my replacement, right? It's never
Right.
going to be your replacement. So you just need to think about, this is what I use it for. I use it to brainstorm, to refine and build, but the voice and the vision are always mine and my clients, if I'm doing it for my clients.
Yes.
And we don't automate authenticity. AI just helps you to amplify it. So one of the things that I do with my clients, this is kind of an interesting thing. I do it on an iPhone, but if you have an Android, I'm sure there's a way to do it there too. And this is such a simple exercise, but go to your notes or whatever you have, turn it on. I always say to close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your heart. This is what I do. And I have all my clients do it. Put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath and just say things like this. This is what I stand for. This is what I believe. This is what fills my soul. This is like, just say whatever it is that you're going to say. And when you're done saying that, that's what I call a heart speech. You're speaking from your heart. I do it in notes because then it emails it to me. And when it emails it to me and I take that, all of the knowledge brain that is in my AI, I upload my heart speech to it because now I've told it what my heart is. And that will really help you to be authentic in your voice. And it's an easy exercise.
Wow. Wow. I'm going to do that right after we log off. Thank you. Those were two great suggestions that you just gave to us. And so I have one more question before we're going to kind of close up here. And again, if anyone else has questions that they want to put in the chat, please do so. I see, yes, this is what I wanted to ask. If someone needed a fast cash injection, especially during these times of economic uncertainty and all the tariffs and groceries are expensive, what is one idea that they could do to increase their revenue quickly?
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. So you have your seen IP and you have your unseen IP. And your unseen IP are the frameworks, the phrases, the insights that you use in private client work, but you haven't packaged them publicly. So one power move would be to turn it into a premium offer, like a strategy intensive or an exclusive workshop or an executive briefing, because monetization isn't always about more. Like everybody thinks that to do it, we have to do more, but it's about revealing. I want you to really listen. It's about revealing the value that's already inside your body of work. That's where the name of the game is. Everybody keeps thinking we have to keep creating more. We have to keep creating more. We don't need to keep creating more. Look inside. Where is that value that you already have in your unseen IP?
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, Patty. And so where can people learn more about you?
Well, the easiest way is to go to my website, which is pattyfarmer.com. So just go there. And if they go there, they will see all the things. They'll find my magazine. They'll find my podcast. they'll find my assessment. And I have to tell you, the assessment that I talk about, I call it the biz quiz. So I'm sure you're going to give them the link because I gave it to you. But here's what I want them to take away from the quiz, because it's going to tie in the bow everything that I've said. When you take the quiz, and there's questions there, and they're just rate yourself 1 to 10. When you do it, here's what's going to happen. First of all, it'll send it to me and it'll ask you some questions. But even if you never spoke to me ever, here's what I want you to take away from it. When you see how it frames how you score, here's what you need to know. Where you scored high, like at 8, 9, 10, that's where you should be looking for those fast cash injections. On the low end, if you scored a 1, 2, 3, that's who you should be looking for power partners, who that is their strength and it is not yours, right? And then in the middle, where you scored in the middle, that is where you should be expanding your network with those people. So each way that you look at the question at the end, when you see your total, I totally built it that way. So you would know, what do I do with the assessment? Here's where you go. You need more money. Good. Here's your strength. Here's the value. Do it really quick. You can get it done. Here's where maybe not so much. When you're thinking about doing something, these are the people I need to pull in. And the ones in the middle are like, oh, wow, here's where we kind of overlap. Here's where I'm doing good. Could be better. But these are some skills that maybe I might want to think about getting a little bit more education on. This is where you should think about, maybe when you're thinking about where to spend your marketing dollars, right? That's where you should spend it. So it's super easy to take it. So I encourage you to do that. It doesn't cost anything.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, your links to your website and your quiz have been added into the chat, into the comments for everyone. And those will be on LinkedIn forever. So if you want to refer back to them, you can take advantage of them at any time. What are you doing these days, Patty? Other offerings or things that you've got going on that we could take part in?
Well, one of the things that I'm really excited right now is that with AI, I'm rolling out a brand new thing. I haven't told anybody yet. So here it is. So my new Substack and my new LinkedIn newsletter is going to be Marketing for Humans, powered by connection, amplified by AI. I feel like this encompasses everything of my heart work, everything that I do, and all the skill sets I have. So we will be launching that in the next couple of weeks. So watch for that. And if you get something that says subscribe, I would love it if you would do that.
Amazing. You got it. And I love that you're always learning. And you and I both have attended the AI pod at the Dames, where women together are being led by experts to learn the various tools, because there's so much evolving. And so how much of your time do you spend learning?
Well, I probably spend at least 2 hours a day learning AI, always going there, because so many of my clients, right? Because we do so many things for them. And I am now certified AI marketing expert. So I think that is really important. But for me, AI will I don't care what kind of technologies, it will never replace the relationships that we build with people. So that's why it's really like marketing for humans, right? You know, I think is really important with that relationship. AI is just going to amplify it, but it can't replace you.
Amazing. And more important now than ever. Anything else that you want to share with us as we say goodbye today, Patty? Thank you so much for sharing so much expertise. I just love you.
Oh, thank you so much. I just love you too. I appreciate everything. I'm really excited. If I can serve and support in any way, I would just love to do that. This has been an absolute pleasure and an honor, Joyce. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Patty. And thank you to everyone who attended or is going to watch this video in the future. We are here for you, and tune in next time. Thanks so much.